experience farming when I came here, and I had a little experience, visiting ranches and stuff, but, I had never done anything like this, and I had no idea if I would like it. But, I've been here for 6 months now, so obviously I like something about it. But, yeah, I was living in a really big, really crowded city, and so this is about as far from that as you can get. And some people get here and they leave immediately because it's too quiet. Being in a place like this really makes you listen to yourself. The voice in your head becomes really loud here, and so you need to become friends with it. The idea is people healing nature and nature healing people. Because in these big cities we're distracted all the time. We live in a culture of distraction. And this is sort of stepping outside of that culture, stepping outside of that distraction, and then there you are with yourself. And so, it's quite uncomfortable for people a lot of the time because, suddenly you can hear what's going on inside you. And it's amazing to see how people grow in this silence, grow in this stillness, and become more aware of themselves. And so, it's not only an environmental project, it's a human project, So, the regeneration is not just environmental. All around the world, the land and the environment is becoming quite unhealthy. And so what we're trying to do here is learn how to fix that. We're trying to learn how to work with nature to nurture it back to health. And so this is a place where we're experimenting with a bunch of different techniques and processes to do that. And so holistic management and keylining, to me, are two of the big, really promising tools. But permaculture it's just a collection of tools, right? It's a collection of methods and techniques for generating land. And there's so many different things that could apply to that, and so many different ways that you can practice permaculture. But in essence, you're just trying to work with nature, not against it. Another thing that's really interesting to me is food forests and forest gardens, because it's an incredibly sustainable way to produce food, and nature naturally wants to be a forest. If you leave nature alone, eventually it's going to turn into a forest if the climate is acceptable to that. And so in terms of energy input, it costs a lot less energy to maintain a forest than it does a bare field. And in our industrial agriculture system, we're maintaining bare fields. And so a food forest system is basically letting nature move in the direction it wants to, and just replacing the natural trees with fruit-bearing trees.
I came to A Quinta because I want to learn as many skills as possible to do with self-sufficiency and managing my own land so I can set up my own place one day. And this is how I really like to live. This is where I'm happiest, where I'm close to nature, close to my food source and where it's coming from, sort of living on the land around like-minded people. What I've learned the most here is definitely about animals like the sheep. I've started learning about holistic grazing, which I had no idea about. Before that, I was really in the camp of animal agriculture is bad for the land. Coming here, I've been learning about regenerative agriculture and ways you can do it sustainably to actually heal the land better than you could if you didn't have any animals. So that's been really eye-opening, and looking after lambs. I've never looked after any kind of newborn. So that's been, these sheep take a lot of work to keep alive. One thing that, I've really learned from this place is that it takes a lot of work, and that you really need to be passionate and dedicated and organized from the start. You need to know what you're going to set up, how you're going to get it set up, where you're getting the funds and everything, and just do it, because it's a lot of work, and you don't need to be figuring that out down the track that, oh, actually I'm not prepared for this aspect of it.
My primary focus on learning was for natural building, because I build rope courses in everyday life, so just things, I like to build things, and I like to construct, and it's nice to work with nature and go back to basics, and downsize, just downscale a bit, and live more minimalistic. I'm not really doing this out of a vision. It's more of the opposite. I'm doing this more out of the lack of vision. I haven't found yet what I would achieve in life, or what I want my life to be like in a few years, and that's why I'm looking for new inspiration and new people to meet to help me along the way, people to learn from, and ways of living, just to see what works for me. I want to touch like different aspects and see what works for me, and try to figure out what's the thing that I'm willing to do in the future. You're meeting new and interesting people at a high speed, so you're constantly learning from people, constantly picking up things, and constantly changing. It goes really fast. You get a lot of habits and a lot of visions or ideas you wouldn't come across in your everyday life, because if you just live at home, mostly you see the same people every day doing the same job every day, and then you don't grow that fast. So for me it's definitely a personal change, because my main goal was learning about building and about permaculture and life and stuff, but I've actually learned a lot more about myself and about how I am, or why I feel what I feel, or think what I think, and what I want to keep up with.
So what brought us to this project, to start this project, is because we were 15 years ago we found out about permaculture, and we sort of started with eco building and then permaculture, and from one thing leads you to the next, and then we always wanted to do a kind of farm, but we didn't really have an idea of what exactly we wanted to do. And then we found out that we wanted to do something permaculture. We found out about holistic animal grazing and different systems, and we noticed that we didn't find any projects that integrated these different systems. So it's just seemed really logical to put different systems that work regarding regenerative agriculture or the ecology. So from the start we wanted to show how you can stop the desertifying areas, like the Iberian Peninsula is really desertifying, and we know that you can only bring change if it's economically viable. So we wanted to be an example to other farmers in the area that we could raise twice as many animals on our land through the systems rather than them, and then they'll see what's going on. They'll think, oh God, how do they do that? And then it becomes interesting to follow what we're doing. So that was the main objective. And of course you can't do it by yourself, so we wanted to create a kind of community, but more like a working farm. It had to be like economically viable, socially viable, and ecologically viable. That was the main idea behind the project. After being here for 3 years, we've learned many lessons in all sorts of aspects, but for me the biggest lesson is that we're not only regenerating the land, the ecology, but also regenerating ourselves. We see so many people arrive here and come to themselves and realize that being in the normal society and stuff like that, we kind of disconnect from ourselves, and people start to reconnect themselves here as well. So it's become a dual kind of project, regenerating the land and regenerating the people, and that's the most beautiful thing you can imagine, really.
When I was born, the midwife screamed and shout, I have fire and brimstone